What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I'm joined with my guy, the greatest on planet Earth, Parris Lilly, for another episode. Parris, how are you doing today?
I knew that was coming and I still wasn't ready for it. Oh, that is great. That is great. I'm doing good.
Good, Parris, good. It's really great to be able to sit down with you and hang out. Of course, we had a little bit of change of schedules. Gary's unable to make it, but you and I have a really fun show to get into. Want to give a big shout out to Ben Hansen over at MinMax. Of course, if you just heard my voice, I had to suck down a big old balloon before we jumped on the show to make him happy after our team KindaFunny lost in Trivia Tower. If you want to go check that out and have a fun night of trivia with the MinMax crew and KindaFunny, you can go check that out over on their YouTube channel. I got to co-host that for a fun night of trivia, and it was truly a blast. So please go check it out. But Parris, it's really awesome because today you and we're going to talk about our experiences with Saints Row. We have a full review over on the KindaFunny Gamescast, but we'll kind of get to do our own Xcast review today on the show. And we got an awesome preview. Of course, Obsidian's Pentiment is right around the corner, and you and I got to go behind closed doors and get to hear the whole rundown from Josh Sawyer and the team from Obsidian about Pentiment. So stay tuned for all of that. But Parris, I have some fun stuff to kick off the show. First off, did you watch Game of Thrones? And is Game of Thrones back?
I think it's back.
It's back.
I swear to you, an hour before I watched it, I would not have said that. The only reason I even got into it is I just saw so many people on social media talking so high because I wasn't going to watch it. I was like, I'm done after that last season. Everybody was talking so positive about it. And then my sister-in-law, because I was out with the family, we were having ice cream. And my sister-in-law was like, because her husband didn't come. And I was like, wait, why is he not here? He's like, he had to stay home. He has to watch House of Dragon. And he was all excited. I was like, you know what? Okay, screw it. So last night I watched it. And it's like that meme from Godfather. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back
Never
in.
doubt my boy Matt Smith. Except ignore Morpheus. We don't talk about Morpheus, but Matt Smith always brings the goods. And like when I saw him that like they got him for this show, I was like, oh, he's gonna bring something special to this.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in this story to see where it's going to go. And look, let's look at it this way. How many seasons of Game of Thrones do we have? 8?
8.
Hey, 7 of them are really good. So I'll just look at it that way. I'll look at it that way. So I have some hope here, at least for the early seasons. We'll obviously see how it plays out. So yeah, they got me. I'm back in.
Yeah, they got me. I was really excited. I was a little apprehensive like most people, right? But that intro, and then right as they played the music, I said to my friends, I go, if they got a dragon flying in the sky, I'm in. And sure enough, the first scene is the girl flying the dragon. I'm like, I'm back. No matter what, I'm back into this. And they did everything that I wanted, right? For me, as the casual Game of Thrones fan, I'm there for the violence. I'm there for the dragons, right? I'm there for the intrigue of the story. And they nailed all of that right from the get-go. And I was really pumped up about it. So can't wait to catch up next Sunday and see where we go from there. But Parris, we had a good week as well.
Before we go, because Barrett's here, and I know he's as hooked in as I am.
Oh,
how phenomenal was Better Call Saul?
What a fantastic show that not enough people are watching. Unfortunate just because of, Breaking Bad was able to kind of escape all of the noise way back in the day because there was way less content being made. Also in a very different streaming landscape. What was it, like 10 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that same amount of love isn't being poured to Better Call Saul because I think that's one of the best modern TV shows. I think in ways it surpasses Breaking Bad in the writing, and I think that's just because the Gilligan Gould production team has just been able to hone their craft over the last 14 years, and it was truly phenomenal. I'm sad to let go of that universe, but I think they ended it where they needed it to, and it was fucking fantastic, Parrish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say really quick, and we'll get into gaming here, but Bob Odenkirk, to just think where he came in at during the Breaking Bad, universe, and really didn't, he didn't think anything as he wound up playing that character for 12 years. And then to just see how they stuck the landing with that series finale. I mean, it was fantastic. And it's crazy. And what Better Call Saul did was, as a prequel, it actually made Breaking Bad better, which is crazy to think. But also, it turned out it was a love story, and that's no spoilers.
Yes.
But ultimately, this was a love story.
Yep.
That's wild to think. that's ultimately what all this was about. So yeah, phenomenal series. Anybody that's on the fence, definitely go watch it. Watch Breaking Bad. You'll love it.
Got some good TV recommendations there to jump into while you're taking your downtime from gaming. But we'll jump into some fun gaming. I got a fun icebreaker for you and I, Parris, because QuakeCon just happened last week, and it got me thinking, you know what? Let's talk about it. I'm going to drop 3 jabronis on an island, and only one can come out. And I need you to tell me who's winning my battle royale. Master Chief, Doom Guy, or BJ Blazkowicz. Who are you choosing to walk out on top?
I've struggled with this. I immediately eliminated BJ. He's out. He's dead. Sorry, you're dead. There's no way you're getting past Doom Guy and a freaking Spartan. This is not going to happen. You're going to die, right? You might be able to take out Nazis, but you're not taking those 2 guys out. So it comes down to Doom Guy and Master Chief, and I'm so conflicted. My initial thought is Chief will figure out a way, and he'll win. But then I just think of the arsenal that Doom Guy has, man. It's like he's packing, and I don't know. I'm so conflicted. My heart tells me Master Chief because I'm so connected to him. But I lean Doom Guy. I think Doom Guy. I just think he has too heavy of an arsenal that Chief is just simply not going to pack enough of a punch to take him out.
Oh, I love that you went there with the arsenal, because that's not what I was thinking. I leaned into Master Chief like you did with the trained super soldier, right? Yeah. He's done it all. He's got all the gizmos and gadgets that we want from this latest entry, right? But the arsenal is right. Doom Guy's got a lot of it. I do want to give a small little shout out to BJ, right? Because like you said, BJ's taken down some Nazis before. He did have a super mech suit at one point.
That is true.
Pretty recently. So he can pack a small punch.
Yes, he packs a great punch. He's very resourceful. But I will say, if you're dropping these 3 on an island, like I think BJ is the one that I love the most. But I think just because of like his resourcefulness also comes from his crew, like how much they help him out and stuff like that. And so if it's just him on this island, I think he survives for a bit, but I do think he's the first one to go. But I'm also inclined to agree with Parris. I think Doom Guy is the one to stick it out, just because he's also dealt with, all of the space hell stuff, and he does it by himself. Master Chief also does things by himself, but he also, usually, has some help going on throughout, his stories and stuff like that. So I think just how resourceful and just insane Doom Guy is. I think he has the edge over Master Chief in a way.
All right, well, there it is, audience out there. The Kinda Funny Xcast has weighed in. Doom Guy's coming out on top. We want to know what you think. Let me know in the YouTube comments down below. Of course, out of those 3, who's walking off the island? But looking at QuakeCon, we had some cool Game Pass updates, Parris, that I wanted to make sure we covered before we got into the news and all the fun topics. Of course, out right now, you have an Elder Scrolls Legend Battlespire, Quake 4, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, Wolfenstein 3D, and for Game Pass perks, Quake Champions Champion Pack. Instantly unlock all the champions with the ultimate perks. Play the entire roster of 16 elite champions. Quake Champions is a must-own before you can unlock all these characters, but it's available for free on the Windows Store. Quake Champions, a game that was revealed like 5 years ago, Parris, and now is like finally fully out, right? But it's been out. Did you ever check this one out? Because they had a killer trailer, I'll never forget, that I said, ooh, those characters look really dope. Like I told Gary recently, I haven't played any Quakes. Have you ever checked out Quake Champions?
I have not. I was into Quake way back in the day, but by the time that came out, I kind of fell off on it. But no, I haven't checked it out, unfortunately.
All right, I might check it out now that we've had a little bit more hype here over this past week. I might give that a check out, because I remember games like Unreal Tournament I was definitely into. So I think Gary sold me well on Quake. Maybe I should give this one a try. Yeah. But Quake Champions, I got my eye on you. We'll take a look. Parris, let's jump into the fun. Of course, this is the Kinda Funny Xcast. We post each and every Wednesday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget, we are now Epic Games partners here at Kinda Funny, which means if you're buying games off the Epic Games Store, upgrading your look over in Rocket League, or buying the season pass in Fortnite, please use our Epic creator code KindaFunny at checkout to help support the team. It's no additional cost to you, and you can help support us in a brand new way. Of course, talking about support, we always want to give a big shout out to our friends over on Patreon, all those kind of funny best friends that support us on Patreon, just like this month's Patreon producers, Fargo Brady, Delaney Twining, James Hastings, and Casey Andrews. Thank you all so much for your support. This week, the Kinda Funny Xcast is sponsored by Me Undies, but myself and the team will tell you all about that a little bit later. Parris, let's jump right into it. Let's talk Saints Row. Of course, over on the Kinda Funny Gamescast, we did a full review with myself, Blessing, and Janet, so you can go check out the official Kinda Funny review. But here on the Kinda Funny Xcast, it's me and Parris. We get to talk about this stuff, so we'll do our own kind of mini review here, but I really want to know about your experience, your thoughts, and then we can break down a little bit deeper into my thoughts that I didn't get to share on the Gamescast. So, Parris, Saints Row 2022, The Return. What did you think?
So first and foremost, I think all of you did a phenomenal job on Gamescast. I watched it earlier today. Thought it was great. I thought just everybody, yourself, Blessing, Janet, I think everyone just summarized it up very well. And I agree with a lot of that sentiment. And it's unfortunate because I even tweeted out this morning. There is some fun to be had in Saints Row, but it's so few far in between. And in 2022 to come out with this type of open world sandbox game, and it's not doing anything innovative, right? It's not doing anything. I feel like I have been here before, and I have been here many times before. Whereas I think I even said it before the show started. If this came out in 2012, we'd be applauding it. But we've had so many different variations of this in the past decade, not to mention, and I just have to be frank here, I understand that Saints Row has always been a parody of Grand Theft Auto. When I look at Grand Theft Auto 5, and I think that is a game that is from a decade ago, and this is not even doing that as far as the storytelling goes, as far as the mission variety goes. It ultimately, this just felt generic to me. And that's unfortunate because I really had a lot of high hopes for Saints Row and then basically making this remake and setting it in this town. And I just thought we would get some really fun satire moments, some really fun sandbox moments out of this game that aren't just a repeat of things that we've done multiple times before. I think, like I mentioned, mission variety. I felt like a lot of the missions, I was just kind of doing the same things over and over, especially with the side missions. There was really no variety to them. It was just, all right, let me do this again for like the 17th or 18th time, right? And then when you dive into the story, it just is very bland to me. It didn't do anything that I will fully admit, I kind of just blanked out on the story about halfway through. I did not finish the game for full disclosure here because I wasn't having fun with it. I just wasn't. I just felt like, all right, I've done this before, rinse and repeat. What are we doing here? Not to mention, I played it on Xbox as well. And I don't know about you. I can't remember if you said this or not, Mike, but I ran into bugs as well. I ran into some glitches and some issues. And I understand it's, this is review period. They're going to do patches and everything. So I was never trying to ding it too much on that. But when you couple that with, well, I'm not really having fun anyways. Look, I'm not as extreme as Blessing was, but it's close. Unfortunately. And like I said, that's a damn shame because I think the Saints Row franchise as a whole has been pretty solid over the years. And unfortunately, this kind of comes off as one of the worst entries in the series.
Yeah, I echo a lot of things that you just said, Parris. And of course, if people heard the Gamescast, they know a lot of where I'm going to dive into. And I feel what you just said, right? Saints Row was a very special game and franchise to me as a young adult, right? When I think about it, you had the GTA 3s through Vice City, right? And then into San Andreas. And then all of a sudden you were hit with Saints Row, which was the over the top kind of crazy little brother, right? That AA darling that came out and was like, hey, if you like Grand Theft Auto, we're going to do all that, but we're going to be even wackier and wilder. Right. And it kind of got people, right? From the dildo bats to the insurance fraud and to kind of like that Saints Row Johnny Gat gangster mentality. I was into that, right? And I really loved the first two entries. And as people heard before, when we did the draft, I said, I'm really apprehensive. I'm bringing back Saints Row. I don't know if you can capture that magic like it once was. And from what we saw, it didn't feel like it was, right? It felt like people walked into the room and were like, how do we appeal to millennials? And they just started throwing things on the wall. Yeah. They were like, LARPing is a cool thing, right? And they said, well, maybe we can't go too over the top. We don't want to offend anybody. So let's try to dial it back and have it more grounded. And I think that's where you lost me, right? When I look at this group, it's supposed to be young 20-something-year-olds that just got out of college and they're trying to make a way for themselves. I guess the way is just to murder people in the streets. I didn't know that was the move. But for me, it's like I don't connect with any of these characters. The story beats that we got with each of the roommates, which are supposedly the main members of the Saints, just never felt heartwarming, never felt like you connected at all. And it was a big downfall because, Parris, I wasn't expecting a Last of Us type story, right? I wasn't expecting to walk out of this going, wow, the story, right? But I was expecting a little bit more out of this story. And I think they really missed it on that. So now you have a forgettable story. So what happens here with the gameplay? And for me, I went above and beyond. I got 73% of the way through, and I found a lot of my enjoyment became, oh, this is something new and fresh, meaning it's a new video game. It's the open world action game that a lot of people love, and it's just become a checklist for me. I'm just checking things off the list, and I've become addicted to just passing time doing that instead of enjoying new and varied gameplay like you brought up, right? A lot of these things come from, hey, you have 12 different ventures, and all of them are just rinse and repeat gameplay that you've seen from the main missions and side hustles, which is show up to a spot, murder 20 bad guys, you're done. Hey, drive this car from point A to point B. Sometimes it's really quiet. Sometimes you're being chased by the cops. Another one is you show up to a spot and you just fight endless hordes of enemies. And nothing ever felt unique, except for, of course, the big stapled franchise, which is the insurance fraud. That was the one out of all of the ventures that was at least its own and fun thing. I found a lot of my enjoyment came from the scavenger hunt. I really loved the world that they built. And this was a new technique of like, hey, let's get people to explore and see this beautiful world that we built, which I think it really is great and beautiful. And that is just simply drive to a spot, take a photo, right? And as mundane as that sounds, at least was fun for me because I felt like the gameplay shooting and driving felt so old, Parris. It just like wasn't refined in there.
This
and
is
that's
what I'm
a
saying.
big factor for me.
That's what I'm saying. I do want to go back to one point that you made because maybe we
Yeah.
slightly disagree on this. And this actually kind of leads into something we'll talk about later with Redfall. In 2022, we have so many open world games now that I have an expectation that that world needs to feel alive and it needs to feel vibrant. It needs to feel like you're not just making an open world just to give me, and I'm in a car driving around and it's just there. It's just this empty space of things to do versus being dense and feel populated and you feel like you're just a character inside a world that is going on with or without you, right? I don't get that with Saints Row. I just feel like, this is why I say again, this feels like an open world from a decade ago, right? And then even when I compare it to its direct competitor, something like Grand Theft Auto 5, it's not even on par with that. And is that a fair comparison? Maybe, maybe not. But like I said, here in 2022, we've done so many different open worlds now that I do have a set expectations of that. And this just did not feel, it felt empty and not alive to me unless you were specifically going to a certain mission. And like you're saying, then it would kind of populate for whatever it is that you're doing. But if I'm not on a specific mission, it just felt very empty and cold in that way.
That's interesting you bring it up because for me, I really liked the world design. I think the art style that they brought, the level of detail that they put into the world is what I liked. But I get what you're saying, right? And I think where we're at here is when I look at these open world games from Sleeping Dogs to Mafia 3 into Cyberpunk and Grand Theft Auto, right?
Another one, yeah.
Each game brings a different level of lived in and the reality of the world, right? And I don't think anybody's ever found the perfect mix, right? We've never walked away saying that was the perfect lived in world. And like Saints Row definitely is far from it. I do agree. A lot of the area just becomes empty, or all of a sudden there's 2 cars on the road. Now there's 0. There's 5 people walking. Now there's none. What I liked, the one positive that I give it for their quote unquote lived in world was when you'd be driving through the desert and people would be lighting off fireworks, right? Or all of a sudden you'd be driving down the road and there was a fender bender and the 2 people were talking outside the car, or the cop was pulling somebody over, or there was a flip truck and the tow truck was there to pull it back up. Like there was some random occasions in the game where it's like, oh, that's like a really cool random event on the side of the road. But then, like you say, right, they didn't nail it because I would drive the next block and it would be dead empty all of a sudden.
Yeah, and
right?
that's kind of the point. It was too few far in between, if I'm saying that correctly, where I didn't have enough of those moments
Yeah.
to where it felt like. And again, you brought up Cyberpunk. Not that Night City completely nailed it, but Night City felt lived in and alive to me. Whereas you never know what could be happening around the corner, right? In that type of game, and I think there is an expectation for that. If you're doing an open world like this now, you have an expectation that, like I said before, you're just a character, but the world's going on without you. The world doesn't become alive because of you. It is alive with or without you, if what I'm saying makes sense. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing that I took from Saints Row. And like I said, just the actual mission structure and things that you're doing just felt like it was from another era of gaming. And that's unfortunate too.
Yeah, it feels like, hey, we have the 3 missions that we want, and you're just going to rinse and repeat those all the time, right? And I do want to circle back to the lived in world because I think that's the interesting one for me, right? It's like I give it praise for a certain piece, but then we ding it because it isn't truly lived in. What are some of your expectations, Parris? Right? Because like when we look at each one, like I brought up from the different games, each one does something that I like, right? But then it kind of fails in, okay, the game just can't handle it, or maybe the tech behind it just can't do what we want. What are some of the things you're looking for? Is it traffic in the road? Is it people talking on cell phones and having conversations? Is it that patio restaurant and somebody's eating a burger? Like, what is that thing that we're missing that we want? Because Saints Row didn't quite have that, but it had some good things. What is that one thing you want, or what are the couple things?
And this isn't a cop-out answer because it's true. It's kind of all the above of what you're just saying. Like, I'll give you another example. I've been playing a ton of Spider-Man recently. So even that open world with Spider-Man, when you kind of get down to the ground level and you're interacting with the crowd as they're going about their day, or like you even mentioned, like a patio, if you're on a rooftop and you see people on a rooftop doing whatever, barbecue, sitting around having dinner, whatever the case, you hear these conversations going on. You feel like, and they react to you coming by because you're Spider-Man. Like, oh wow, oh my God, the Spider-Man. It's like, oh wow, that feels earned to me. That feels like, okay, this is a real living, breathing world that I'm in, not just a generic static world that the only time it feels like it comes alive, as I said before, is when you're on an actual mission and it is required to be alive to accomplish whatever objective that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Parris, what are some examples that did really well? You brought up Spider-Man. Is there another one that's like, oh my, this is the one where like at least they were moving in the right direction here that you liked?
Well, it is interesting. It's going to sound super biased because I'm obviously bringing up 2 CD Project Red games. I think The Witcher 3, for its time, what that open world was doing was great. Obviously, like I just mentioned before, Cyberpunk with Night City, I think has done a great job with that. Now, here's one that people probably wouldn't expect, but I think did a great job with their open world, was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I really enjoyed that open world, and that was what Greek mythology that it was going through, right? Like obviously, I just mentioned Spider-Man and Miles Morales are very similar in that way as well. Another, I guess this doesn't really count as an open world because it's more of a battle royale. I was actually going to say, just recently playing Rumbleverse.
Oh, there you go.
I kind of like that one as well. Now, here's one where I think you can ding that didn't do as great a job as you thought it would have. Halo Infinite, believe it or not. But they admit it's not a true open world, and they're not trying to say it's, hey, just go over, do whatever you want when you want. It is more structured in that way of just these big sections that you get to go to, and there's things going on. But even in, and I'm not trying to derail it into a negative, but just as an example of another one I thought that could have done better, even when you're in these big open spaces of Halo Infinite, there isn't always enough going on around you, right? You'll run into these set pieces where brutes or grunts or whatever are stationed around a certain thing, and you can interact with them and have a fight, but there's not enough random encounters and things going on. And even if you take that back to the initial reveal of it, there's supposed to be like all these animals running around and stuff, and that's not necessarily happening in that game. I know I am blanking on other open worlds to compare it to. I'll probably later go, oh, this one too, but I think those are some good examples.
Yeah, I think that's a big one everybody talks about, right? Is that lived in world, right?
Yeah.
How does it feel when you're there? I bring up like the level of detail in the world itself. I think Santo Aliso is really pretty, right? You and I and Gary have talked of like, what is the next GTA? And I think Gary brought up like, what if they did the Southwest? And I first gawked at it. I was like, I don't want to be in some desert. Like that doesn't
Right.
sound fun to me. It's just going to be brown all the time. And sure, this is brown all the time, but it has some really beautiful worlds, right? The
Yeah.
points of interest do stand out. They have bright, colorful stuff. I do ding it though, Parris, because they have a couple of big landmarks and it's just like they do nothing with it, right? They have this
Right,
whole
right.
casino section and nothing happens in it. And it's like, man, when are we going to get to that part where we're doing more with some of the world around us? But yeah, the lived in world is something we always talk about. It's interesting on open worlds. And some people get it. I don't think anyone's ever been perfect, and that's been the gold
No,
standard, but
no.
we keep inching forward. And so I do give them a small point of like the random acts, but like you said, right? After a while, it just becomes the same fireworks going over and over and again. But that's, something interesting.
Yeah, I totally, how am I going to forget this one? I'm sure the comments are screaming at me right now. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yes.
They nailed that open world for that. I think that is actually one of the best representations of a living, breathing open world that feels thriving, that you never know what's around the corner as you explore various areas in there. I thought, if anything, Rockstar absolutely did a great job with that. And then even along those lines, we keep going back to Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5, for as old as it is as an open world, is still pretty freaking good. Even to this day. Obviously, the multiplayer has really expanded upon that. So along those lines, it will be very interesting to see what Rockstar does next with GTA 6, as far as just iterating even further on the open world concept. I think that, to summarize all this, I know we'll probably move on here. Just overall, open worlds are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. Clearly, we're definitely going to see more of those. I mean, Starfield, for all intents and purposes, as a game that we're going to get here pretty soon, is basically an open world game. It's a discovery game. You're going to all these planets and doing all these different things. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, in that type of setting. But yeah, we're definitely going to see more. Well, Fable is going to be another one. Sticking to Xbox is going to be an open world game. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what people do to continue to advance it. But we have definitely reached a point where, like a game like Saints Row, I have that been there, done that feeling, and I'm ready for something new.
Yeah, I want to give a couple of shout outs to the good, and then we can focus on some of the bads and then get out of the Saints Row talk. But like I said, right, I got lost in the checklist, right? And I think a lot of people, when they see these open world games, they want that big checklist, that endless, oh, I spent $60 on this, I'm going to be here for a while. And it has that, right? And we talk about a lot of the missions and the side hustles and the ventures are all very samey. But if you're looking just to get lost in it and just turn your brain off, it will have that in spades. It is a big game. I spent probably 20 to 30 hours in, and like I said, I'm only 73% there, and it is so much more to do. Another one is customization, right? You and I and everybody saw the boss factory beforehand, where it was like, hey, you can create yourself, you can create anyone, right? And I talked about it in the review. I just don't have the skills to make my characters ever look good. I wish there was a randomize button, honestly, but a cool one I want to give two props to is one is the variety. And of course, they also have user generated content. So you can use somebody else's cool creations and see that. I thought that was dope. And then also being able to change your character at any time throughout the game, I thought was really, really awesome by just bringing up your phone, going into the character creation, and like you can create your clothes, or you can like redo your whole self from a male to a female. You can change your voice on the fly. That was something for me when I started. I was like, I don't know what voices to use. So I used this like Western sheriff's voice almost. And I was like, halfway through the game, let's see what this sounds like. And I changed it up to a different voice. And so I thought it was really cool of like, oh, you can fully customize your character at any given moment, just completely switch it up. Big shout out to that. And especially there's two ventures that I hope people get early, because it's easy to get lost in them because they're so expensive and like you might choose the wrong ones. But there's a clothing shop one where the girl sends you on scavenger hunts to find new materials for your clothing. And so then you can really elevate your look by having different materials, which is really dope. And then the other one is the incubator that me and Jana talked about, because this mission is different from the other ones. I think the incubator and the insurance fraud are probably the two standouts. Like, hey, we're different from the normal.
Yeah.
Because the incubator has you get to try 3 different weapons and utility tools from Marshall, which is the high tech like cops essentially. And you get a hoverboard, you get a football grenade where you throw it onto them and it propels them up into the sky and blows up. And then the other one is a shield that goes up and you can shoot through walls. You would not know that you got that unless you paid for that venture. And it brings in so much more fun into the game. Like the second half, I was just chucking footballs at enemies and laughing as they flew all around or throwing them on helicopters and cars. And it is too bad that like they kind of hide that and don't promote that, especially being so different from your generic show up, murder 20 people, drive the car from point A to point B. So I really hope people check those ventures out. And also, I gave a shout out before. There's some cool enemy variety in this, Parris. A lot of it is just generic, dumb baddie, but I wish they really doubled down on some of the cooler enemies that they had, because over on the Marshall side, they had a sheriff that could multiply into 6 different guys. They had a really cool tracking pistol that wasn't used that often. They have a dope sniper rifle. There was also the Ravers who had cool people. Like, there's a lot of cool enemy variety, but it's totally underutilized and just gone in the mix of all of the sameness, which is too bad to see. I really wish they did that.
Agreed. Again, I keep thinking of open world stuff. So before I forget again, shout out to you, Barrett. Arkham Knight. It's another good open world from back in the day. And I'm really curious to see.
It pains me to say back in the day.
I know, right? It's
7
crazy.
years ago. It's insane, man.
I know, it's crazy. But that also makes me think we're about to get Gotham Knights here pretty soon. So let's see how they've updated it in those 7 years, going with this open world of Gotham City.
Well, I wouldn't put it on the same shoulders of Arkham Knight, because we have to remember it's different developers. We have to think about it in the context of their last game being Arkham Origins, which that is an open world game. I would say was very unimpressive. Great story, but when we're talking about like lived in open worlds, that was definitely not one to like kind of really like pause at and wow. I will
simply say with Gotham Knights, not to derail this too far off of Saints Row. I have this running joke that I have spidey sense with games that I look at and I
Parris,
go,
don't do it.
No, I go, something about this isn't right. Two I can think of off the top of my head is Mass Effect Andromeda. I was all like, something about this isn't right, and sure enough, turns out we found out why. The other one was Anthem, and currently it's Gotham Knights. There's something I can't put my finger on. I've looked at the IGN first. I don't know. I'm holding out hope.
It'll be the RPG skill tree elements plus the different feeling combat. That's what it'll be, Parris. That's my guess.
We'll see. October. I think it's coming out in October, right?
Yeah.
Let's keep your spidey senses tingling, because you brought up a photo of an event you went to way back in the day, and we just had the quote-unquote leak of a possible cover art and release date for Dead Island 2. And I need to get your vibe on this, because I told Blessing about Saints Row. I said, there's no way this works. Do you think Dead Island 2 will come out and impress, or do you think we'll have a same situation here like we did with Saints Row?
I hate to say it, but I think it'll be similar. Unless there's just been a complete overhaul of whatever they were doing. Because that picture, it was E3 2015. We're at a Dead Island 2 party. So unless they've completely overhauled it here in the past 7 years, and you're basically going to release the same concepts and ideas that you had 7 years ago, it'll be the same thing. I just don't think it'll hold up. I think it'll feel dated. Yeah.
That's my worry, Parris, is will it feel dated? How much work has really been had on that? And is it going to come back? Like, I want to wrap up the Saints Row one by, if you want more info on Saints Row, go check out our Gamescast. We did give it a 2 out of 5 on the KindaFunny scale as bad. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of samey content. The story is forgettable and not as engaging and wacky as you want it to be, but you can learn more about that. But I want to wrap it up by saying, when we look at Dead Island 2, and we'll talk about that when this game comes out, Saints Row, is this the end of the franchise? Is it time to move on to something new and different? Or do you think that this team will take the criticism or take the good and the bads and come back with a different Saints Row later on?
I hope it's not. I'll say it that way. I hope not. I hope there is another opportunity, like you said, for the devs to take a lessons learned from some of the feedback that they're going to get from this iteration, and maybe even this game itself. Maybe there's some updates and expansions and DLCs and things they can do with this game, to continue to improve it over the next few years. So the more I think about it, no, I don't think this is the end. I definitely think we'll see more Saints Row.
We have a viewer question that will come in later, and I'll talk about this again. But I do wish they added multiplayer, because I've always brought up Protect the Pimp mode and how much I loved that. I wish they did that. But I also think this is the end of Saints Row. I think that this team is very talented, and I like their open world action games that they create. I want them to create something new and different in that genre, right? I look at a game like Maneater from Tripwire Entertainment, right? The shark RPG that we played, which is just GTA as a shark. And I love that game. It was new. It was different. And I think that this team has the DNA and the foundation. I think we should move on and put the rest to Saints Row and maybe try something different and a little bit more fun like that. So I hope that this team, no matter what happens, knows that they have a great foundation and comes back with something different, or maybe the same. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Parris, talking about new, we got some new stuff to talk about, because we got to go behind closed doors and learn a little bit more with Obsidian and their new game Pentiment. But I want to talk about that right after a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes. I love MeUndies. It is very rare, if ever, that you'll see me not wearing MeUndies head to toe. I'm wearing the MeUndies shirt. I'm wearing the MeUndies lounge shorts. I'm wearing the MeUndies socks. I'm wearing the MeUndies undies. Of course I am. Everyone knows MeUndies for their super soft undies and comfy bralettes. But did you know that they make other stuff too? They have daily tees, shorts, rompers that add a little silky softness to your everyday. They even make hoodies for your dog. You know that Toretto and Moose be rocking those as well. MeUndies is your destination for all things soft and sustainable. For any first-time purchasers, you get 20% off plus free shipping and returns. To get 20% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. You're not going to regret it. You're going to love MeUndies, just like I do. MeUndies.com/kindafunny.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Parris, this is a fun one. This is pretty cool to go and be part of this event, to see behind closed doors with Obsidian, talk with Josh Sawyer and Hannah Kennedy from Obsidian. Of course, Josh Sawyer is the studio design director at Obsidian and the game director of Pentiment, and Hannah Kennedy is the art director. And they spoke with us about their upcoming narrative adventure game, Pentiment, scheduled for release in November 2022. Now, it was a lot more of a, hey, here's the vibe check of this game. Here's what we were doing going into it. It wasn't like we played the game. Not much gameplay was presented at this. It was mainly Josh and Hannah talking about the inspirations of the game, the art style, and kind of the messaging of this is what this game is all about. So I'll read a little bit of it, but Parris, I'm sure you'll help me. Let's talk about Pentiment here. So Pentiment is a passion project made by a small but highly skilled team of 13 devs at Obsidian. While this game is a narrative adventure, it has RPG elements that make it an Obsidian game, but they stressed it's light on RPG elements. Players will find a unique take on art style and vibes in a historical adventure game. Josh Sawyer has wanted to make a historical game for some time, but didn't push the idea of making the game like this until Microsoft was going to buy Obsidian. He said that it was more uneasy to make a game like this with the traditional route of the publisher route before. I have a lot more details, but Parris, just off the initial gist, what did you think of Josh's comments about making this game this kind of passion project of his?
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and kind of goes to show, and I've talked about on previous shows about, how much I adore Obsidian. And I think ultimately they're going to be, if not the most important, one of the most important acquisitions in the history of Xbox Game Studios. And it's for exactly reasons like this. It's them now having the flexibility to go off and do a passion project like this. And obviously Microsoft being on board to allow them to go chase a passion project like this. Like you said, 13 people worked on this game, and they're not going into it expecting it to be this huge, big AAA experience that if Obsidian was still, an independent developer, they would basically have to have to sell a publisher on financing and publishing, this game because they're going to want to return on their investment. But instead, with Microsoft's new strategy, obviously, Game Pass plays a part in this as well. You can make a game like this. You can make a game that, like you said, is a narrative adventure game with some RPG elements, but it's more of a historical game. You're going to learn something while you're playing this game. You're going to learn about the 16th century, in Upper Bavaria, if I'm saying that correctly, and the Holy Roman Empire, things like that. You're going to understand how things work during that era and the art style and everything that goes with that. So, yeah, I'm like, I'll tell you up front, I don't necessarily know if this will be a game for me, but listening to Josh talk about it and seeing his passion for it, I'm definitely interested to give it a try. Right. And maybe, like you said, I start playing it and I actually come out on the other side more enriched because of it. I've learned something about it. I've learned about an era of history by being able to play a game like this. So yeah, I'm very happy to see that Josh was able to get a passion project. And I think this could be a signal that we see other developers get similar opportunities to make something that, we're not expecting it to be this huge, big selling game, but it's something that from a creative and artistic standpoint, they're allowed to go do. And you never know what could become of something like this. So I'm very interested to see what the final product will look like when it releases.
Hey, brought up two good ones for me. First off, yeah, Parris, I agree with you. I was very similar coming out of the Summer Games presentation when we saw Pentiment for the first time, right? I think everybody throws around Josh Sawyer's name. They throw around Obsidian and they think New Vegas
Yep.
2. Give me the big RPG. That's what they're known for. And Josh, in multiple interviews, has talked about, I've made those games for 20 years, right? I wanted to do something different. I wanted something that I can, put my really finger on. And this is that. And hearing his passion, I totally agree with you, Parris. It went from being kind of lukewarm and ice cold to this of going, okay, well, I'm going to give this a try with an open mind and maybe see where this goes. Because there was some really cool moments that you and I saw. A big one that he talked about is the font, right? This game is really driven about you talking with other characters. And of course, you're going to kind of unravel this mystery of your best friend and your mentor is accused of a murder. And so you take it upon yourself to go solve that murder and kind of save your best friend from getting the repercussions of that. But at the same time, you'll unravel a giant conspiracy that goes on for 25 years. So they really talk about like a generation of this game where you're going to see children grow up into adults as you're playing this. But the big one was the font, right? Like everybody comes in and depending on their, background and their history, the font might be different. And that's what captured my attention was every time the font came up, it was something different. Or you looked at it and you go, oh, what's that? And you can actually click on pieces of the font and go into their glossary where it will tell you what characters they are, who's on the screen, and then also like historical facts like you brought up, Parris. So I thought that was really interesting and different that I wasn't quite ready for. That actually caught my attention a lot.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's what I would say to anyone that is watching or listening to this now. And obviously, this is a preview. We haven't gone hands-on with it, so we ultimately don't know what the final product's going to be of the game. But it's something different. And I think, this is what we've talked about with Microsoft taking this approach with Xbox Game Studios and creating, Game Pass and having just a variety of different types of games and genres that you can try out in that service. And, this game will be at retail as well. You can buy it standalone, play it on Steam, on the console, whatever. But again, it is a part of Game Pass. So if you're a subscriber to that, kind of, because this is how I'm thinking about it, it's like, I will give this a try. Because it is different enough. This isn't like I remember seeing this during the showcase and I go, what is that? Like, I had no idea. Right. And then, I just knew that Obsidian was making it. And immediately hearing Obsidian, I go, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. And then to your point, seeing just the passion of Josh talking about this game. And I'm blanking on her name. I don't know if you have
Anna Kennedy.
Thank you. The art director. Is that her
correct
direct title? Yeah. And just seeing the art style of this game. Yeah. I mean, it looks great. It's different. There's nothing I can think of off the top of my head that I would compare this to right now. Right. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what it is. So I think getting that presentation and seeing this preview and seeing how dedicated this small team was to this, Absolutely. And I'll even say this. I'll take this back, when I did the showcase back in 2021 and sitting down with the Grounded team.
Yeah, there
from
you go. I was going to
Obsidian
bring it up. Yep.
and talking to them, and that started off with 17 people. And look, we're about to get the 1.0 product of that. So, sometimes great ideas have smaller, meager or humble beginnings, however the phrase goes, right? And, maybe it may not necessarily be Pentiment. Maybe this sparks the idea for Obsidian to do something even bigger and bolder with this concept. So absolutely, I'm definitely intrigued by it and want to see where this goes.
Yeah, you brought up like the passion projects and the smaller teams taking on these opportunities that maybe they couldn't do if they went the traditional route, like Josh brought up. And Obsidian and Grounded are a great start to that, right? It looks like the team is back at it again, able to do that. But you brought up the art style, and this is another one for me. I think of an art style that didn't really connect with me right at the beginning, and that's As Dusk Falls. And I fell in love with that art style by the end of the experience. And for us to go in there and watch this hour-long, kind of conversation and preview with these two, I fell in love with the art style. I thought it was really cool. And to hear the background of like, oh, we learned from, real historians here of what this was, how they were doing this, and then we put it into the game. It looks cool and it sounds great. Man, so much to go over. Of course, very big inspiration and gameplay elements like Oxenfree and Night in the Woods were his two comparisons there. So definitely something, if you are interested in those games, that's what you can kind of expect, is exploring the world, talking to characters, creating connections, especially with them over generations, and also kind of like finding and investigating clues. And then you will be able to throw the book at someone and like accuse them of the murder, and they might die, or maybe they'll take the punishment, but like they could be gone forever depending on who you choose, which I thought was pretty cool too.
And I think one other key point to bring into this, he made it an emphasis to say that this is a game for non-gamers. This isn't extremely difficult or anything like that. This is something to be a pick up and play experience and get you into this story and into this narrative, and like you said, unraveling this mystery. So people that aren't hardcore gamers can look at this, pick up this game, and give it a shot. And I think just looking at the overall picture here, these are the kind of games that you need when you talk about people that aren't gamers. Give them something to wet the palate, right? Let's ease you in, and then maybe you get hooked on it and you go, hey, I really like that. Now maybe I'll go try this, or I'll go try that on down the road. So like I said, I walked into this going, I don't know what this is. Is this for me? Not sure if it is for me, but hearing Josh talk about it, I am definitely intrigued, and I will absolutely give this a shot.
Yeah, keep an eye on this one. He also said at the end, there's a playable demo at Gamescom. So it sounds like we're going to learn more, or at least have more people going hands-on with their impressions as well. So if you're at a Gamescom this week, enjoy, because maybe you'll be able to play Pentiment as well. But Parris, that's a cool one. It was really great experience to be able to share that with you and that team at Obsidian. And yeah, I think you and I went from, hey, what is this? I don't know if this is for me, to, okay, you have my attention. I'm excited to see what you got. Let's jump in and we'll try it when it comes out in November 2022. Well, let's keep it going, Parris, because there's a game you don't have to wait long for. It's coming to PC Game Pass, and I'm all about this game. That's Death Stranding, y'all. Death Stranding is coming to PC Game Pass on August 23rd. So tomorrow, the day that we're recording this, it's tomorrow. So yesterday, if you're hearing this on Wednesday, but Kojima Productions and 505 Games partnered with Xbox to put this on PC Game Pass. I'm all about it, Parris. I know you and I, we always have the conversation of the general audience who is not on social media, that's not the console warrior, doesn't care about anything, just wants to play games. And then there's social media where people get way uptight and too upset about things. And so for the general audience, this is going to be awesome because, right, it was a PlayStation exclusive, came over to PC. Now it's on Game Pass PC for the Xbox fans who might have Ultimate or just PC Game Pass. But now you get to jump in to this Kojima Productions joint. And I freaking love this. As someone who's been playing it just last month, I've had so much fun with this. And I'm really glad that more people get to play it. For the people on social media getting uptight, y'all got to chill. Y'all got to just enjoy things. It is insane to see people upset about a game coming to PC Game Pass. Fans. It's insane,
Mike,
man.
how is it on this platform when Sony owns the IP? How could they let this happen to one of their own IP, Mike? How?
It's crazy, right, Barrett and Parris? It's crazy stuff.
Well,
But
here's
really
the wild
exciting.
thing about that. First and foremost, let me just say this about Death Stranding. It's not my bag. It's not for me. It's not something I tried to get into it because when 505 put it on PC last year, they did send me a code, full disclosure, and I tried it, and it's not for me. But that's okay. Not every game has to be for me. I understand the importance of it. Like you're saying, Mike, I know a lot of people that are highly enthusiastic about this game, absolutely adore it for what it is. But here's the funny part about what we're talking about, all the discourse we saw over the last week. It's already been on PC. Anybody that has wanted to play this on PC easily could have picked it up a year ago and play it. What the beauty of this is the fact that Microsoft, they made whatever deal they needed to do, got it on PC Game Pass. It allows someone that is on the fence that just so happens to be a sub to Game Pass. Now you go try it. You go try it for yourself. You can be like someone that'd be skeptical like me, could then go to at least try it and see if it's for them. If it's not, no harm, no foul, you move on. So it's just another avenue to get people to discover a game that is obviously critically acclaimed, coming from a legendary developer in Kojima, Metal Gear Solid 2. But I'm happy to see it. I said, I'm happy to see that this is another opportunity for people to be able to check out this game, and being on Game Pass, hey, it just adds more value to that service too. So I'm sure it's honestly it's a win-win all around. I don't see a negative in this in any scenario.
Yeah, no negatives at all is right. And if you're on the fence, or if you haven't played this game or don't know about it, go check it out. It is a ton of fun. It's a Kojima joint. Him and the team have whipped up a wild and crazy story that you're going to be shaking your head and scratching your head at going, what is happening? But this is dope. A very mellow gameplay loop, right? Of everybody talks about it as you're just a UPS driver,
Right,
dropping packages off. And there's some intense moments, right? There's some action. There's some stealth going on, which I really like. But what it's all about is just getting lost in the beautiful vistas and the world that he created, right? Like, this is a game that's going to be wowing. You're going to be in awe at some of these really cool moments. And I love the story. If you liked Metal Gear, you're going to be on the edge of your seat going, what is happening here throughout? But great grab for PC Game Pass. Shout out to the team over at Xbox. I thought that was a really cool one this week to announce ahead of Gamescom.
but I also think, I can't remember if did we talk about this last week? Was that what the rumors are? I can't remember, but even if I didn't say it last week, I'll say it again. Or if I did say it last week, I'll say it again. I want to see more PC specific games get into Game Pass. This obviously is not one of them because it was started off on console. But the point of, like, when you think PC Game Pass itself, like the first game a lot of people think of would be something like Age of Empires 4, right?
Yes.
But I would love to see more PC centric titles come into PC Game Pass and basically build up the value on that side of the platform versus its console brother, because there's just simply not enough of them currently. I mean, slowly but surely it's starting to get there. Like, I think of a game, even though it's on console now, like Gears Tactics obviously started its life out on PC. So yeah, you want to see more internal stuff come from Xbox Game Studios that can be built for PC, right? And then hopefully they can work with some more of their third-party partners and bring some more of those experiences there as well. Because at my heart, I usually default to playing things on PC first before I play them on console. So the more things that could come to PC that you can play with a mouse and keyboard, I'd love to see it.
I like that, Parris. And for me, when I think about my PC, right, because for me, most of the games that I want to play will come to both, right? They're on both, and I can get away with playing either on the console or the PC. But for me, when I boot up my PC, what I'm always drawn into is on Steam, those like $5 games, those early access games that people get hooked on, right? Like, you think Phasmophobia, or for me right now, it's the Mortuary's Assistant, which might be on console, but the Mortuary's Assistant and Inside the Back Rooms, where it's like, well, that's a $5 game on Steam, and it's only on Steam, right? I can't play it on my console. I would like to see games like that come to PC Game Pass, where I know you're going to give me the heavy hitters, and they'll continue to do better at that. But give me some of these smaller games that are like the cult hits right now, and like save me the $5 to $15 and let me get lost in this service, because that's where I find my Steam purchases are coming from.
Agreed. One that I can think of off the top of my head, and we keep saying old school a lot, and really it's only like a few years ago. But another old school one that is a PC only game is Papers, Please. Something that you play with mouse and keyboard. I would love, and again, anyone that wants to know what it is, go Google it and you'll see it's a phenomenal concept of, and I don't even want to spoil it, but that's a PC only game. It's probably, I don't know, $5 or $10 right now on Steam, but that's something you put in PC Game Pass that people would have a curiosity factor about. Go try it. There's a ton of games like that I would love to see people do. I could go forever because I'm thinking of like 10 million more. But
you see what I'm talking about? It's very fast.
Yeah.
I want those because I do feel like I get the big ones, right? Like 2 Point Campus, for example. Like there's my PC game that I want to play with a mouse and keyboard, right? But like those games that I get to Steam on and everybody's doing that, that's what I want to see for sure. I want more of those for sure.
Agreed.
Let's keep it going because we got some fun ones, Parris, as we start to round out the show. First off, over on QuakeCon, we had a really awesome panel from the team over at Arcane Austin to sit down and talk about Redfall. Just some more details. It's a 21-minute kind of panel with the team, and it did go into some really cool details that you kind of already knew, but a little bit further than what you did know. So some big of the notable ones are they're really working on the hybrid of what Arcane does well with the hybrid of first-person games and RPGs. They want to make it work solo and co-op, but also keep that narrative style to it. They talked about their biggest town/map ever, right? So this is going to be their biggest and baddest one that they've ever done. And they really are talking about the gameplay and keeping it dynamic like you've seen from previous titles, right? And being able to do it solo, but also work together and be able to do some really cool dynamic stuff with your partners. Day and night cycle, dynamic weather, random spawning and patrols of enemies. The story is about a biotech company that comes to the island and has found a way to turn themselves into vampires. And then the vampires aren't like your traditional vampires. They're a little bit different. So if they bite someone, they can actually choose what they become. You know, they can kind of play with the cultist idea of, oh, I get to become a vampire. Psych, you get to become a blood bag is what they talked about, which was pretty cool as well. And of course, the big baddies, the vampire gods, are the most powerful and the ones trapping you on the island. They talked about weapons. They talked about the team. It is a really cool deep dive for 21 minutes if you are interested in Redfall to get you excited about this, right? I think we all were a little let down that it got delayed out of this summer because we wanted to play it. But man, this got me excited again for this game, which is dope.
Yeah, same for me. And bringing it back to a point I brought up earlier during Saints Row, like you said, this is their biggest, biggest map ever that they're doing. But one key point that he made was there's no vehicles in this, right? It's all on foot. So that's going to make the map feel even bigger because you have to traverse it again on foot everywhere you go. So my hope is, along with that, all these different areas of this island, of this town, are very dense in that there's a lot of explorable elements to it when we talk about it feeling lived in and just the people that the NPCs that you're going to encounter and things like there's a lot of secrets and things to discover as you traverse through this town, through this island. So that kind of got me excited as well. You know, we talked about what ultimately seems is going to be the one negative about this with the way that they're handling progression where you're in a co-op setting. But it seems like they want to make sure that this is a completely enjoyable and playable single player experience as well. And obviously, you know, the Dishonored roots and Prey roots, you know, that this team brings to it. I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I love the fact that even with the vampires, you know, biting the NPCs and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, you know, because of that, right? I thought that was a fun element to it. And the fact that the NPCs, they're going to have NPCs that want to get bit, right? They want, you know, to join the vampires. They may not necessarily get what they want out of it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here in this world to have these various scenarios and these encounters that you're going to have, obviously in a co-op and in a single player experience. And again, going back to the Dishonored roots and the Prey roots, you know, that Arcane brings to this, I'm very excited to see, not along with the weapon variety, but also the various, you know, magical powers or whatever you want to call it, abilities that you're going to have as well in this. It's looking good. It really is. Yeah. It's really looking good. I hope, and I'm knocking on wood, I hope this is a January release. I hope we get this right at the beginning of the year. That's my hope. I hope it's kick off the year with a bang. If
you think Xbox, Gamescom or Game Awards? Where do you think we announce something like that?
Oh, I'm going to take it even deeper, Mike. Not that I have any inside knowledge.
No inside knowledge.
This is going to announce XO.
Oh.
XO.
Okay.
Yeah.
November. If Microsoft, and again, I don't know nothing, but if Microsoft were to bring back XO this year, and obviously we'll see with the pandemic and cases and all that, if they could even do it. But if they were to try and bring back a big fan event with XO, that's where you do it. What if you're like at Redfall, you get it January 20th, 2023, and you can have that whole thing right there. I think that would be a great platform to do it. And obviously, if they don't do an XO, then yeah, I think the Game Awards would be a great
Do you think
place
that
to
wouldn't be too tight of a turnaround to announce the date, and then it's a month and a half later, and just knowing with like how distribution has to be like kind of turned around that quickly?
Barrett,
and stuff
this
like
is
that?
what I'm gonna say.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
If we're in, because I've been talking about this recently, and I think I've even said it here. 2023 is a reckoning for Xbox Game Studios. 2023 has to be the year that they start delivering on a lot of these games that they have already announced. And we obviously have gotten the roadmap. We know what's coming the first half of 2023. So imagine this scenario. Just stay with me on a second. The end of January, we're getting Redfall.
Okay.
Then in March, we're getting Forza. Okay. And then you turn it right back around in April.
What?
You're getting Minecraft Legends.
Okay.
And then the coup de grace, the chef's kiss. In May, you get Starfield. And then in June, next showcase, here's what you get in the back half of 2023. Here comes Hellblade 2 and whatever else, right? That makes
like
it.
this.
So look. If I was working in marketing, this would be the year. This would be the year of Game Pass. That's what I would call it.
And like I don't think January is like too crazy or out of the question.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Game Awards is too late of a place to announce that. I also, I know Jeff Keighley is trying to make Gamescom a thing. I know that Gamescom is technically, by human number wise, the biggest gaming event on the world, on the planet. That's not where like the huge, crazy AAA like announcements come out of. So I don't think we see it here. Again, the biggest thing I remember working Gamescom a few years, the biggest thing that came out of that was Biomutant, Mike. Remember how cool Biomutant was? And everybody was like, oh my God, this game looks awesome. And in the back of my head, running the live show for IGN back in whatever it was, 2017, maybe 2018, thinking this game kind of looks whatever. And then it came out and it was very whatever. And I feel like that was the biggest thing to come out of Gamescom. Now, will Jeff Keighley turn that around like he did, like he was trying to last year and this year? Maybe, Mike. Maybe. And maybe
so,
Redfall is on the set list tomorrow.
But here, to your point,
this before opening night live, all that stuff. So maybe I'm eating my words later this week.
No, but to your point, Barrett, because I agree, they're not going to announce any of that at Gamescom. I don't believe that at all. When would you then? Because either you're going to have another like an EXO event, like again, this is pretend. But if Redfall were to come, because you got to figure out a minimum of something's coming in February. You got to think. Right, so
even too many things coming in February already.
I'm saying from Xbox Game Studios specifically, they got to have something in February at a minimum, in my opinion. So when would you announce that? You would think if they're going to put a date on something, it probably does need to be around that November timeframe. So whether they're doing an actual fan event like XO, they got to, I don't know if it's Xbox or Wire or whatever, you would think that they would say, hey, we expect Redfall to be out, like I said, January 20th or February 15th or whatever the case. You would think you want to start announcing it then. I do kind of agree, since Keighley just announced that the Game Awards will be December 8th. That probably is too late, too deep into the holiday period to start talking about game release at the beginning of the year. So I think if Redfall or whatever their early 2023 announcement would be, I would think it's probably in October or November, thinking about it reasonably.
Okay. I'm excited about that, Parris. Let's end the show with one final quick news piece. Embracer Group, the team that you don't know, but you do know, they buying everything. And they have bought not only a bunch of development studios, like one of the games I brought up earlier, Tripwire Entertainment, but they bought the IP rights to Lord of the Rings, Parris Lilly. And of course, I wanted to bring this up because we've had some great Lord of the Rings games in the past. We talked about Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War last week. I just want to bring up, hey, Embracer Group, make Lord of the Rings 2 Towers and Return of the King playable on next generation consoles, or remaster them in some way and also make Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 3, which is a dope, with like continue that dope RTS franchise with Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 1 and 2. Make number 3, and also shout out, not many people know this, but Lord of the Rings had a MOBA on Xbox 360 Arcade, and we didn't get many MOBAs back then, and it was all right. It wasn't great, but it was all right. Parris, Lord of the Rings for you. I know we talked about the Shadow of War games, but is there something that you want Embracer to do on the Lord of the Rings game front?
Yeah, I would say it'd be perfect for an RTS.
Yes.
I mean, that's just a no-brainer right there. Like you said, whether they dip back in, do some kind of remake, or just do something brand new. Yeah, I would love to see RTS in the Lord of the Rings universe. It just screams it. It's built for it.
Only if they have trebuchets.
Trebuchets, man.
Yeah.
Trebuchets.
Yeah.
Shout out to history in games, y'all. Shout out to Gran Turismo teaching me about cars. Shout out to Hands on History at Age of Empires for teaching me about trebuchets and falconry and so much more. Like, put more history in your games, and I'm there for it. And that's what Josh Sawyer wants to do. Give me a little sprinkle of history so I can learn about that. I think it's a great gateway for me and so many others to just be like, okay, I'll take 5 minutes out of my day. Tell me what you got there. So that would be dope. Personally, it is the end of the show. Another great week.
We can't leave yet.
Oh,
We
what
can't
you
get
got?
out of here yet because
What you
I thought because I saw the notes. I thought we were going to talk about this, and I'll keep
Tell
it
me.
extremely brief. Cult of the Lamb is a game of the year contender.
Oh my God, Parris! I didn't get to let you talk about that. School us on Cult of the Lamb because we.
No,
haven't
I
talked
just
about
and I
that
will keep
yet.
this super brief. I know
No,
already. You know, KindaFunny already did a review on it and everything.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Like it was something that I was aware of, but I wasn't. You know, it wasn't like on my radar. Like, oh my God, I need to play this. And then I saw the reviews come out, and obviously I just saw just the universal praise. So you know, I played it once it actually came out. And I instantly fell in love with it. I love the combination of this being a management game along with basically like a dungeon crawler at the same time. The artwork in this is phenomenal. I love the music in it as well. Being able to get all your different followers, but then you're going into, you know, into the dungeon crawling aspects, and you're doing your mini boss fights and your boss fights. You got to manage everything with all the different resources you got to get and set your followers into the devotion and your sacrifice people. I just freaking love this game. I just absolutely love this game. Yeah, I know, because I know Gary's playing it too. So definitely next week, Gary and I got to talk about this more. But this is a game of year to contender easily. Now this is
it this year's Death's Door? That's what I need to
say.
know.
That's what I was gonna say.
Had
That's
to
what I'm gonna
ask
say. Devolver Digital don't miss. 2 for 2.
Oh, they don't miss people.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
awesome.
It's
So
really
you're
good.
liking it? Okay, because like the soundtrack to me, I really, really liked. I haven't gone that in depth, but like the gameplay, right? You have that kind of top-down hack and slash, go through the dungeons, and then the management sim. What do you think of that blend? Do you like that blend of
That's
both?
what I
right
mean.
there?
It's you're taking two distinct things and putting them together in this fun way. Like, you know, you're obviously this, I don't even say cute lamb. I mean, hell, you're freaking sacrificing people and all this, and you're literally running a cult. But the way that they put the two together, it just totally works. Like basically you're leaving your followers off to, you know, to farm and to tend your resources and everything, while you're off in the dungeons and fighting bosses, and you're collecting other resources to bring back. Then you got to listen to the needs of your followers. You'll run into scenarios where they don't believe anymore. And if it gets to the point where you can't convince them to come back, you might have to, you know, get them out of there so they don't convince other people to lose faith in you too. And you're doing your sermons, you got to do your ritual. Dude, there's so much in this game. You'll actually be shocked. So I'm assuming you haven't played it then, right?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah. So if you pick this up and start playing it, it's a lot deeper than you think.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Okay.
I would push back a little bit. I think when I left it, because I binged through it in a weekend, and like really got into it. I do think it's a great like checklist game, kind of a great time to like have on my Steam Deck while my wife is like watching stuff on the TV and stuff, and then putting the headphones on, because that soundtrack is freaking amazing. I did feel leaving it, I felt like it both sides of the roguelike aspect to it and the town management Animal Crossing like aspect to it both felt surface level, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it was something that like once I kind of rolled credits and found myself just kind of like doing extra stuff for the sake of doing extra stuff, I didn't feel like I was building to anything else, and I felt like, all right, well, I built to the end credits, and I built to the kind of goal that's given to this lamb at the beginning of the game. I don't feel the need to continue to be in this world anymore, and so that was like the slight disappointment I had with it. But at the same time, it was the game that made me realize of the appeal of Animal Crossing and games like it, that my wife, put hundreds of hours into Animal Crossing during the pandemic, like so many other people, right? Like it was the game where I was like, okay, I get it for sure, and I did enjoy my time with it. I do think it's a great game. For me personally, I don't know if it's a game of the year contender, and I imagine for like indie game of the year, it'll definitely be in that conversation.
Absolutely,
game award stuff. When it comes to the greater conversation, it'll be interesting to see where it lands. But for me, personally,
I mean, being realistic, you are right. When we do get to the Keeleys, I don't see this as standing up.
Because let me be clear, like Guys, it's a stacked year. I know people are like 2022 dry because there's not all these franchises coming out left and right. But man, like Mike, let me walk you through it. Like Ollie Ollie World, I'm gonna list off some PlayStation games, so don't be mad at me really quick. Sifu, Horizon, Elden Ring, Tunic, Kirby, Star Wars, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, The Quarry, TMNT Shredder's Revenge, Neon White, Cuphead DLC, As Dusk Falls, Stray, Cult of the Lamb, Roller Drome. Like I didn't vibe with the first Pokemon game that came out this year, but then there's another Pokemon game that's coming out this year. We still got God of War Ragnarok. We got Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, even though Gary hates Rabbids, even though those games are freaking incredible. We got High on Life, Gotham Knights. Maybe it's gonna be mid like Parris is, with his Spidey sense and stuff like that. Who knows? But it's been a pretty cool year, and it'll be interesting to see where Cult of the Lamb kind of filters in on the end of the year conversation. I do think it'll definitely get some love from outlets though. But I'm just saying it's more of a stacked year than I think people are giving it credit for.
No, I don't disagree with that, but Elden Ring's going to win. I mean, at the end of the day.
We'll see.
We'll
see. It's got God of War Ragnarok, and when it comes to video game industry people voting, it'll be interesting to see. Sekiro won the Keeleys a few years ago, but Sekiro wasn't also up against a big juggernaut like the God of War franchise, which I think is more accessible because it's a little more. I don't know what the equivalent term of this is, but like Oscar baity a little bit, in that sense. So it'll be interesting.
I did have a vote last year, so hopefully I get a vote again this year. And I'm
going to call Keeley right now. I'm going to be like, hey, don't let this man go.
You two are the best. A big year and so much more to look forward to. Hope you enjoyed this week's Kinda Funny Xcast. Don't forget to leave a comment down over on the YouTube. Let us know who you think is walking out of our mini battle royale on the island. Master Chief, Doom Guy, or BJ. And of course, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you're excited for Pentiment, and we'll learn so much more at Gamescom this week. It's happening now as you're listening, and we'll see you back here for next week's Kinda Funny Xcast. Peace, everybody.